Hey guys, it's me, EODGamer here. This is going to be a nice extension of the previous videos on the channel, and in this one, I want to talk about why the 50-50 system actually favors the pay-to-win players. Now, it's very unintuitive because technically a pay-to-win system would naturally be unfavorable. A 50-50 system naturally be unfavorable for everyone because of the RNG involved. Some people need to pay money and stuff like that. But more importantly than that, I want to open your eyes to two main things. Let's start off first with laying the ground. This is an example. I'm simulating base copy, second copy, third copies, and thereafter. In most of the major gacha games, community has it at roughly 4 banners for a free-to-play player to get their desired character in a 50-50 scenario. You can expect it to be double in free income if there wasn't a 50-50 scenario. So on average, 4 banners, free-to-play can guarantee their base copy. So as the number of copies that you want go on, the free income as a proportion to the total pool is a lot lesser, unless you save for like a billion years or something like that, which is very counterintuitive. Why is EOD saying that a system with 50-50 makes it favorable to pay-to-win players when the free income drastically decreases because 50-50 kind of halves it, and pay-to-win players naturally want to target many base copies or multiple deeper copies as well. So the target market from this generally is anyone who is like free to play, or everyone is going to get at least 1 copy. That's the target audience, what it is for. And as it goes in deeper, the more whaley it gets. Rerun banners, a bit more whaler. Generally, free-to-players don't pull or re-pull on banners. So to put all of this in context, and I guess the first reason, of course, is why do you want to listen to me is one of the biggest things that I do on the channel is I cover content on which is a better investment to pull and stuff like that. I personally am a whale, so we have tons of research experience on the channel already for many gacha games. I put on characters on my account like to E6 just to create content for you guys as well. In the past for Honkai Nexus, for Honkai Star Rail, Genshin Impact, all these kind of games. So a lot of spending, and this research is also meant for myself so that I'm able to limit the amount that I spend. But at the same time, I noticed that there is a gap in the market right now that no one really covers such content of gacha game system analysis, and I noticed that my audience tends to be closer to my age group, maybe slightly older as well, in the 30s, 20 plus, late 20s, more mature audience as well. So I thought this is going to be a very nice video for those of you who like a little bit of math, a little bit of logic as well, data to prove it. Now, on that note, let's start off first with some deep analysis that I've done on EODDB.com. I'm using Honkai Star Rail as a presentation aspect, so any of you who play Honkai Star Rail is a bonus, but you don't need to play Honkai Star Rail because if you've seen our previous videos, the models for the big 4 gacha games are very similar, especially if there's a 50-50. Without a 50-50 aspect, the charts are very simple. You can check the previous videos out if you're interested, but basically, let's talk about this. This is an E0 chart. The dots where there's like more highlights means more people tend to fall in that range when they get their character. Why are there 2 highlighted areas? You can see one here for your first copy, is because of the 50-50. Some people get lucky, so it congregates around here. And otherwise, towards the end, it's a little bit more spread out because a lot of people might get lucky along the way, the 150 way. And then towards the end is at hard PT, so that's your maximum as well. On average, a free-to-play player doesn't really like a 50-50 system as much. This graph kind of shows you why. Because there's a lot of variance. If without like a 50-50 system, you get it at 75, 80, you can plan your pools a lot better. But for a 50-50 system, it pulls the variance all the way. You can get lucky and get it at 75, or you have to plan for 160, which is why a lot of recommendations say you should always plan for a guarantee. Don't hope of getting lucky and plan for getting lucky, because it's never very reliable and you will end up very frustrated. Now, here's the magic where it happens. It starts to get interesting when you begin pulling this curve. If you notice here, once you have E0 to E1, it starts to actually congregate the data together. And let's go E2, for example. You will notice that the spread previously at E0, and you guys can like mess around with this tool as much as you want to get like analysis on EODDB.com anytime that you want. But look at this. The spread of pools starts to congregate around the center and it gets a lot more obvious. Let's say if I want, for example, E2S1, you can see that it changes slightly. It congregates even more into the center region, which means your variance decreases the more you pull. In hindsight, it is kind of intuitive because the more you pull, the less RNG that you get. But this is very, very obvious as you stretch it out. You can see here, you pretty much guarantee yourself in a certain range, which is why like at the very, very high end of whales, E6, S1, full copies of character and 1 copy of weapon or whatever not, you actually generally have your graph centered around like I guess 1.5k, 1.6k mark. The deviation is not too much. This is like super, super unlucky and it's like 1.9k. I would argue that if you're already spending 1.5k, the deviation is not as significant as a free-to-play player having like a 100% variance if you lose the 50-50 or not. So for a pay-to-win player, generally a 50-50 system is firstly more desirable because it also reduces a little bit of variance, or it's not felt as much rather. No 50-50, whether you're a whale or free-to-play is the same, but for a whale, you are actually having like a side bonus of your variance being limited the more you spend. It's in a way the way that the gacha game kind of like entices the whale to spend more, because if you're a whale and you can spend anywhere between like 5 grand to $500, you probably aren't very incentivized to whale because your character itself might have diminished value. But now if you see that, oh, I have an E6 character, a max character, at least I know that the value, what the community will perceive, is more or less consistent because statistics congregate around a certain point. So that stability of value is pretty important as well, and also it's not easy to get. So number of pools very high, it's very difficult to get. It's definitely a factor that supports the pay to win. Now that is the first glance, the first layer of things that we looked at with a bit of data. The second one, arguably, is probably the more insightful thing that we have here. So I put 2 systems side by side, the no 50-50 system and the 50-50 system as well. For a free-to-play player, what it basically looks like, and I guess this is the question of, do you believe in 1 million people spending $1 or 10,000 people spending $100? So that's the difference. In a no 50-50 situation, you are counting on the latter situation. You want 10,000 people to be spending $100. Why is that the case? Is because for a free-to-play player, they are playing the game for free. They get almost every single character. Every now and then, like maybe every patch, they get 1 for free. So they have no spending, no point spending as well. Some of them might get frustrated in the 50-50, which I always notice in my comments when people get unlucky. They say they got some other character, some standard banner character. It's very, very common in a 50-50 system, but a no 50-50 system, you hardly get that. Where this actually starts to affect the whale or pay-to-win dynamics is the people who were on the fence of being free-to-play generally never move over to a small spender dynamic. And any of you free-to-play players, maybe you can attest to this. Does a no 50-50 system incentivize you to spend? Have you spent more money because it's a 50-50 system, or do you find yourself saving more money? I think that's the bigger question to ask. And free-to-play players, maybe you can explain your psychology, your gaming psychology as well, for any of you those who have felt it. So small spender is where it starts to deviate the most in this category, because in a not 50-50 system, the small spender is likely only going to spend if they are very, very close. They can't get the character because they didn't save enough. They were lacking like a little bit. Then they start to pull on the banner, spend a little bit. And it's not too much, like maybe $5, $10. Maybe they buy a monthly pass, a battle pass, and so on. So it's not too much. But in a 50-50 system, if they lose, a small spender might be pushed because of urgency into getting their favorite character because they didn't save enough, they got surprised, they might spend more. What this dynamic basically does is it creates a psychological pressure for your free-to-play players and people who otherwise haven't contributed to paying for the game's fixed costs will be more incentivized to have a small spender dynamic. So instead of 10,000 people supporting the game with $100, now you have more and more people maybe spending just $1 in the game. And that really alleviates a lot of pressure, especially on popular games. Next up, of course, is the whales. The dolphins. Generally, dolphins, I don't think there's too much of a difference, because regardless of whether there's a 50-50 or no 50-50, you will only pull for multiple copies if you were already going to snipe that character. And if you're spending, I think it's more or less the same for a person that's already spending. If you like E2 of this character or 2 copies of this character, you're gonna get it regardless. The only difference is maybe how incentivized you are to get it. You might do it more often for characters that you like. But from what I've noticed in my previous gacha games, the characters that I consider myself as a Dolphin, I don't always E6 and fully max out characters. I tend to get like mostly 1 copy of most characters. And what I noticed is the urge to pull for multiple characters honestly isn't very much. I prefer to have like just playing with a character, the bare entrance fee, and only select characters go beyond. So I generally feel that it's a needs basis kind of thing. But for whales over here, no 50-50 is a status symbol, but with a 50-50, the variance, because of the variance, is harder for people to get characters, and that creates like a bigger status symbol for whales, which means your top end is dragged up even higher. They feel more encouraged to keep whaling, and it puts a much better emphasis on the top end of spenders, and your free-to-play players also are more incentivized to become small spenders. So I would say in a 50-50 system, the psychology of gaming generally increases the small spender pool and the most, and perhaps the whale pool as well. This shifts the need to maintain the game. You can get the same quality as a pay-to-win player as a Dolphin, for example, for a lot less, because the community helps maintain the game to help bring and continue the game. Doesn't mean that free-to-play players aren't benefiting from this situation at all, because here you see, in either system, the only downside for free-to-play is the level of frustration that you feel, but the quality that you get as a free-to-play likely will be a lot higher, all else being equal. If we discount if the company is greedy or not, let's just say they just keep a standard profit margin, your free-to-play player generally benefits from a much better game overall because of how the system is supported, which encourages a very long-running game. That's why Genshin Impact can last for like 6 years already, almost its ending of its cycle, and yet be still such a quality game. Whereas a lot of other games generally go into end of service or decline very quickly. For example, Tower of Fantasy, very close to Genshin Impact's release, but it declined so fast as well. The very interesting dynamics to see. But that's just a short sharing from me. If you guys appreciate such content, do like, comment, and subscribe. And I highly recommend you check out the previous 2 videos that we talk about game analysis, that if you like this video, you might find very insightful as well. And feel free to let me know in your comments below, which system have you played? Do you spend more or less in? And see you guys in the next one.